Uh, Hi, Calvin. So I'll first give you a brief introduction about myself, since I guess we'll be starting in 5 to 10 minutes, but so just have a chat. So, uh, like we are a group of finance enthusiasts. We won't say that we have much skill. We definitely will definitely learning things, but we're in our undergraduates. Mostly doing a bachelor's in technology, and we're also into finance, so we learn a bit of financial modeling or updated with economics or do a bit of equity research. Recently we're even trying to start an investment fund of our own club, which would initially be managing the money that the club members have, basically, for their starting. And maybe in a year or two, we'll help our juniors grow, because we won't be in the college at that time, but we'll be helping them grow it so that they manage the fund of the whole college, the money. So like we have a vision for our club, basically. And now, so we have been having such webinars. Now this is the 6th webinar, and we've had many great personalities. So the basic idea is so that we can basically bring in a culture of finance in our own institute. And we are especially looking forward to your session, because you've really been the face of fintech, and having an insight would be really grateful. Like as for me, I'm currently doing my majors in maths and computing. So, and I'm also doing finance. So yeah, like I look for some strategies for quant research if I can. Have a bit of interest in risks, um, especially Tushar, my friend. He's a lot into risk management. Utsav, another of my friend, who's also in the panelist. He is into investments. So like this is our whole group. We discuss what's happening around the globe, and how we can actually like our basic aim is to create a culture of finance in a technological institute, because we see that it is going to be the future. If not now, maybe in the next 10 years, next 15 years, finance would have a lot of tech in it. And yeah, so like that is a vision, and that's how we want to make the club grow. And yeah, so this is one of our steps in making it possible. So
excellent, beautiful. Very, very happy to be able to be featured as part of this webinar series, and we'd love to share more to you and to the students. I think when we go live, right away.
yeah, definitely. We're looking forward to it. So we'll start in some 5 or 10 minutes, I guess.
Yep, no problem. Yeah. And yourself, what time is it your end? Is it 6 p.m. right?
It's 6 p.m. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So which city you are now situated for in India right now?
I'm in Kota, Rajasthan. So you might not have heard. It's a comparatively smaller city, but it is the education hub, you might say. Like a lot of people come here to study and like go to IITs and stuff. So like that is the main. We have a lot of students in our city. That's what I can say.
Nice.
Yeah.
And now schools are back to normal yet, or in India is it? Or you're still
no, the situation is not stable yet here. Not yet. Like there was a sort of stability in between, but the cases are again rising.
Someone?
Hey, sorry to interrupt. We have attendees starting to join in.
Okay. Okay, so I think I should start. Meanwhile, more participants should be joining in. Or should we wait a bit?
Hi, Sudhanshu. We are good to go.
Okay. Okay, so hello everyone to the sixth webinar of FEC Masterclass. Today we have Mr. Calvin Choi with us. He's the chairman of the board and CEO of AMTD Group. He's globally recognized and successful entrepreneur, and he's a philanthropist as well. And he is a pioneer and investor in regional digitalization. We really look forward to him in the fields of fintech. A lot of people do. So with over 20 years of experience in financial services and investment, he was selected by the Institutional Investor magazine as one of the Fintech Finance 35 in March 2017. He was named as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum. He was also named Asia FinTech Leader by the Singapore FinTech Association in 2019. So yeah, a lot of titles to his name, and we are looking forward to having great insights from him about the world of finance, the world of fintech, how technology is going to affect the world of finance, how it's going to change it as we see it right now. So welcome, sir. And before going to finance, let's start with your college. You went to the University of Waterloo's School of Accounting and Finance. And like you even won the International Alumni Achievement Award there. So if you could tell us one thing that you would pick from your learnings there, which help you the most today, like anything, be it academic, some people skills you learned, the clubs you went to, the experience you had, anything.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be invited to be here. I think to share a bit about my journey, and also to share a bit about some of my previous experience, and hopefully to connect, I think, with the wider world, and I think with all of you students. I think and to hopefully bring further paths and journeys together. That when AMTD one day, when we have the opportunity to also expand into India and other places. And I think thanks for the questions. And indeed, right, University of Waterloo represents something very special in my life, because I think it's the university, of course, I graduated, but at the same time, I think it's a quite special university. They provided what they call the cooperative learning program, so that I got working exposure very early on. So basically, they split it in a way that they call it the sandwich course, right? So that I study for 4 months, and I work for 4 months. I study for another 4 months. I work for 8 months, and on a cumulative basis, by the time of my graduation, I already had close to 3 years of work experience under my belt. So what's actually good, but for the bad, is that then I don't have any of my holidays, no summer holidays, no different holidays, because I use all my inter-season to work. But I think that is actually in response to your question. I think is early on work exposure will be important for you to define your interests, and also to recognize I think the different skill sets that you might need, I think, in the directional or career interest that you may want to pursue. Then I think when you go back to your class, go back to university, then you can handpick the different courses or electives to better equip yourself. So this is actually something I found it quite special for Waterloo.
Yeah, I think definitely having such experience early on in the career definitely helps. So was it like you went to the college for 4 months and then you had your experience for 4 months? So like you worked for 4 months. Is that how the curriculum went? Like because usually how we have it in India here is that we have courses for about 5 months, then we have a month break, where we look for some experience, but you cannot get much opportunities for just a month. And then we have another 5 months of teaching, and then we have a 3-month break where we usually look for some experience or some work. So like that's how the curriculum goes here. So was it the same, or I think it was different at Waterloo?
It's similar, but a little bit different in a way that it's combined up into both work and educational component together. So basically, they reinforce actually, what you learn from the work environment, and they help you to review. I think, all your experience. You need to write a report. You need to present. You need to kind of, prepare additional case studies out of your work experience, and then to basically articulate and to reflect upon it. So I think it's a quite comprehensive program, but not just because it is for the overall Waterloo experience, also because that the program I picked is actually chartered accountancy. So I prepare myself through the program to become a chartered accountant, to become a professional accountant. That's why I think in order to qualify for the accounting designation, you need to have the number of years of experience, plus also you're passing through, of course, the uniform exam before you can get qualified, right? So I think that's also the design of that particular program. But in fact, for Waterloo, I think for most of the other curriculum, they all follow the same program, no matter engineering, no matter computer science or different other kinds. So I think this is quite effective. I mean, you asked me the first year, in fact, before I started my year one, the summer before that, I already started working. So I think through the university pre-university starting placement, I got my first summer intern. But the internship at that time, of course, Waterloo is a Canada school, but the placement got me back into Hong Kong. So I started to work for Arthur Andersen. If some of you online now probably all know about Big Four. By that time, you have Big 8, Big 7, Big 6, but now only Big 4 for the professional accounting industry. So Arthur Andersen, I think it's one of the very reputable firm, at those times. But the good thing, another good, out of this overall work combined educational program is that, let's say, for my case, I stick with Arthur Andersen for all my work terms. So by the time, when I graduated with the 3 years of experience with Arthur Andersen, I joined the first year, the post-graduation, not as a fresh grad joining as a staff accountant. I joined immediately as a senior associate. So I think, I jumped step, 3 years. So that also accelerated my career.
Yeah, I think that would have certainly leveled up the way your career went. So like prior to joining AMTD, you were into accounting, then you were a managing director of the investment bank division at UBS. And then you also served as the China chief specialist, so to say, to lead the China strategic alliance unit of FEC Group. And like you've led numerous large scale and reputable capital market deals, like in the equity or the debt market areas, and then also the cross-border M&A and financial transactions. So and then you shifted to AMTD Group from Citi. So I want to know what was your thought process behind that, what went into your mind so as to switch to a bank that is a more fintech base, I must say. Yeah, so like I just want to know what was in your mind. Yeah.
Well, I think the thought process. I think I'm sure that most of you students, I think in the future, will keep evolving, will keep changing, right? So I think the day when I study accountant, right, my original preferred subject is actually architecture, because I like to draw, I like to paint, sketch, and I love mathematics. I study algebra. But everything actually paving way to become hopefully an architect. By that time, I got lots of influences, from my parents, from different others, and basically telling me, the accounting is the language of businesses, right? I'm sure that some of you, if you read through accounting textbook, they used to tell you that accounting is the language of businesses. So I think, which is something good, right? when I pick up the core essential language of business. But later on, I think, when I work as an accountant, that, one of the important function of as an accountant, either if you work for companies, of course, you work as the company's accountant, CFO all the way, or if you stay with the professional accountancy, a large part of the practice actually is for auditing. So I serve as an auditor, with Arthur Andersen and later with PricewaterhouseCoopers. Firstly in Hong Kong, but soon I moved into China. Despite that, I'm Chinese by my origin, but I grew up in Toronto. So I always think that it will be great if I know a lot more about my origin, and also if I embrace China and going back there to have a good portion of time to spend my career time there. So I lived quite a number of years in Beijing. At that time, I think still quite early on, I think in terms of the overall China's opening up. So I think, but those years of experience, I think have been very valuable. So I think, I've been able to participate in the auditing of big financial institutions. Or at that time, now probably each of these financial institutions, they are all the super mega one, the top 50 banks in the world, top 30 banks in the whole world. But at those times, I've been able to involve in those banks, auditing the financials, involving some of their capital market plans as an auditor, involving and supporting them. So seeing actually lots of the growing power of the Chinese economy, and some of these banks, how they grow from very small, maybe they just newly created, in the early part of 90s or in the middle of 90s, and now that for the number of years of short history or you're into now. As I said, most of these banks, they become the top banks of the whole world. So those actually were the days, I think, I picked up lots of understanding into the Chinese economy and also especially the Chinese financial institution. But then, when as an auditor, what you are looking at are always the historical. So I've been thinking about, if I can be more involved in terms of the future strategy, in terms of understanding about the vision, but also not just the vision already confirmed or set forth, but really about the vision or how to devise the vision, right? And also in terms of the overall development and the how to put forth the strategies into actions. So I think I got the opportunity to jump into investment banking. I think investment banking, fascinating profession, industry, that you are always serving client to raise funds, to finding the right capital market window. But all this are actually to the very senior level type of decision-making power that you will be dealing with the CEO, you will be dealing with the CFO or the chairman. So I think this actually will be something very important, that you are helping the client in view of their future plans, strategies, to find the solutions now, but to support their future. So I found that this is something to be very, exciting. So I joined Citigroup and working there, for a number of years, involving in lots of capital market transactions, cross-border ones, either advising, the Chinese or advising the international investors into investing into China, or even just bringing these companies going globally. And at that time, I think it's also, at the moment when you have Citigroup overall, becoming more and more active in China. So I still remember those days when I worked there, it's a Chuck Prince as an overall CEO of the company. So every time when he went to China, I would serve as the little translator for him also, sitting, behind him, translating for him, when he met with, for example, like the governor of PBOC, right? All those experiences are very valuable, but also allowing me for the top level senior global management of connectivity. So every connectivity presents opportunities, right? So later on, I think, some of this senior management, they found that it will be interesting if Kelvin can also be part of the strategy setting for the future of Citigroup. So to understanding so much about China, and also, knowing so much about the Citigroup culture. So they named me as the China Shift Specialist to head up, a newly created unit called the Asia Strategic Alliance unit as part of the investment bank. So that is really to support Citi for the localization, I think, in terms of the establishment of strategic partnership with big organization or nationwide state-owned enterprises like Citigroup, like China Life Group, like the Everbright Group, etc., etc. So all of those, I think all this actually have been another dimensional of experience for me, helping a global gigantic organization to devise their strategy for locally, but at the same time finding the right partners, the right plans for them to grow further. And later on, I think I had the opportunity to jump to UBS. I think as you also describe it, I have a dual role both for investment banking as a managing director, but also I think representing the investment banking department to sit in the Global Family Office committee. So I think that actually broadened my exposure even further from strategy also into specific areas, right? And from investment banking also into, for example, like Global Family Office, private banking solutions, right? So every steps by steps, I think just to answer your questions, I think to sum up, I talk about a few things, is to letting me, the thought process is, in terms of myself, to become more, one, comprehensive. Number two is to pick up more of the skill sets that hopefully I need to survive, I think, in this challenging world environment. So I think, I used to very much like reading prospectus, right, or public documents, right? When you read any public documents describing the bio of any individual, it's just one short paragraph or two short paragraphs, but describe actually many years of developments of every a particular individual person. So just for students, all of you in the future, I think for any steps or any opportunities that you want to take, just think of yourself, and when you need to write down your every experience, in a piece of paper, whether this additional step, this additional experience will give you something worthwhile to write into your bio. If yes, that will be something worthwhile.
Yeah, really nice. Been looking towards the future, building your own skill set, and not just doing what you are doing currently at your best, but also looking at the future, right? So now while we are at it, would you describe AMTD Group, like what's the work that it's been doing before you joined, and the changes? You've really made a lot of changes. So like it's been present since the early 2000, I guess, but you've like brought some really great changes. So I really like to know about them.
Sure.
Like how
well, AMTD. Well, this time I like to play around with the word, right? So you saw that I put out the forwards into the title of this webinar, that something that I see it as very transformational in my life, and also something very definitely memorable, that I think day by day, of course, is lots of challenges, lots of hard work into building the company, but I think it's lots of fun as well. I think it's really redefining, I think, not only the company but myself, right? So I think the company, just a little bit history, I think was created by Choi Group, so under Mr. Li Ka-shing back in early 2000. So at that time, I think as AMTD build it out and also evolves, right, over time, I think the four words also have a different meaning. So I think at that time, when it was firstly created, the four words actually represented the four letters, the add, minus, times, divide. So add, minus, times, divide, I think for you guys, I think into so much quantitative subjects, mathematic areas, I think add, minus, times, divide, it's really about they see it as the number correlation. In terms of under Hong Kong, there are many different sectors of exposure. Virtually every industry sector in Hong Kong or beyond Hong Kong, you can see Hong Kong having certain kinds of exposure or good business into. So I think they have something thinking very real, is that if they could make good use of all this data into building something financial services related, it will be very effective. And it's of course something very correct, that in today's world we are always talking about data, and data is of course the most power, allowing you to get insights into the customer appetite or into the different risk appetite or everything that you need to know, I think, over the digital world. So I think at that time, they have been thinking about data. But over time, I think at that time, thinking about data have been quite early on. So early 2000, I think, have not been a time, even the widely use of mobile handset, or, until later time, I think the company have been very offline model, conducting businesses. So they want to build this out to become a wealth management platform, financial planning platform. So very stable business. I think decent business, but I wouldn't say exciting. So I think that was the time, I think later on, after around the time of 2014, 2015, when I have the opportunity to working more closely with Choi Group, I think for this AMTD company, we've been talking about how to create values out of it. So I've always been thinking about how we can create values for others. But sometimes I think, if you look into the value creation points to creating values, that might not be the most effective. If you focus into the non-core to creating values to make them to become the core, probably those will be the most powerful. So I think I look into this. I think it's not something that very much exciting for Choi either. So I want to create some values out of it. So first I brought in Morgan Stanley private equity. So MSP, I think under Morgan Stanley as a private equity, they are also wanting to invest into something that are not under the radar screen of many others, but that they see the real values that they could create or synergize, I think, post investment. So I think we discussed about this case. I think with the Choi, very long years of history, and also with the thematic vision in mind. Then Morgan Stanley invested into the company and become the controlling shareholders. And the whole idea is really to think about Morgan Stanley and Choi in combine to find a third, investors or operator finally coming in to run the company, or it might create even some, flip sell for the early two investors. If it's either to the 100% or if they could still be remaining, I think, as a minority shareholders. So I think later on, I think just to cut the long story short, I found the opportunity. I got backed up, by the Choi and also Morgan Stanley and also some different investors, family officers, and also previous clients. And we created something like a MBO that I had the opportunity to join the company. I think that was the time even when I created the new AMTD. I've been actually bringing together, I think, every experience that I accumulated for the previous years, every, friendship or linkages I have had, over, for the talent side. I mean, previously, people working for me, colleagues or others, or even people that I previously worked for, like, our current two vice chairmen represented, my previous boss, when I started off my career at Arthur Andersen. So I think, how to actually find the best people, the right people to come and form the founding team. I think, and it's something that, of course, I spend lots of time. And I think it will be very much important to find the right vision. And again, I think the thematic, I think for you to grow your new businesses, right? So at that time, the AMTD, I've been redefining it. I think from the previous M- time divide, I see it as something very different. I set forth as I see it as aspiration, momentum, teamwork, and determination. So, with this in mind, I mean, we build a new AMTD. And I think, from that onward to now, we grow the company, I think, from $1 million US dollar net profit company to today's, I think we have enjoyed over 200 million US dollar net profit on hand. I think the exponential growth and also the journey is really like the title of this webinar, transformational.
Yeah, it's really been. So like I've also I've listened to several of your interviews and stuff, and I've seen you talk a lot about the AMTD ecosystem that you want to create and how you focus on being local. So I want to understand what exactly does that mean for a bank that's been set up in the ASEAN, and how do you differentiate yourself from others like maybe Rothschild or other banks that are prominent in the same area?
Well, first of all, what I'm creating as far as, in my, with vision and also the overall, strategy of our overall team, I see that it wouldn't be anything similar to any clients. I think, well, first of all, I think this is just like, when you, talk to any students, anyone online. I think everyone is unique, everyone is different. You might find some similarities, but I think, everyone, they have their uniqueness. So I think likewise, I think for a company, especially a company like us that we are growing very fast. So I think every year, if you look back, comparing to the prior year, we are already a lot different than before. So I think one thing very interestingly is that, if you are within the company or even outside looking at this company, if you don't keep yourself abreast with the latest, then you will soon be kind of, lost or, without a clear understanding about who we are. So I think, from how we see ourselves, I think ecosystem, when you talk about it, that is something very much important. I mean, that's also the key in terms of what I want to build. Well, first of all, I don't want to be anything that, we only build on a singular business line. It's not something that I'm doing investment banking and just for becoming the investment bank, growing bank. And it's not something that when I build a virtual bank that I only want to become a virtual bank. I'm thinking about, several important characteristics. One, I think, is about stickiness. I think stickiness is not only about stickiness with your customers, but I think it's stickiness as far as into the relationship. How you create something that are, longer term, that, give, natural reason for something happening. That, it's not something that, this client give you this particular transaction. It's just because that, you enjoy a single relationship, and then you chase them several times more, and then every year, then they just give another deal for you. I think that's not the natural reasoning. We want to make it in a way that just like breathing out in and out air. It's something that, if you are serving a client, surrounding their overall ecosystem, not only our ecosystem, but how to intercut into others' ecosystem. So I think it's something that, they will see you as something more naturally exists, that they will, work with you not only on a particular business area, but across multi-dimensional areas. I think this is something that we want to create as far as to the ecosystem. But of course, this is not something that, I'm telling you that we want to become everything and we do anything. So I think, right now, I think for our AMTD in the current time, we are investment bank, we are asset manager, we are doing insurance brokerage, focusing on the corporate, but from B to B to C, we are also doing strategic investment, I think from our proprietary money. But at the same time, I think we are also very much into digital financial services solution. And this, I might even say digital solution and drop the word financial services, that I want to build everything comprehensive as a digital one connected solution. So I'm building, in fact, by de facto a digital medium. So I think on an overall basis, I think, everything that we build or connected to become one combined, I think we are building our platform to, as we said, to build on more stickiness, to create more consistency, and ultimately, I think to finding more mutually win-win partnership. So I think right now, I think for the ecosystem, I think the fun part, I think the meaningful part is that I think it's an ever-growing ecosystem or ever-growing journey to build ecosystem. So I see that everyone at AMTD, we are not into any particular business stream, but we are all ecosystem builder. Because when you are ecosystem builder, when you are, let's say, investment banker, you're not only thinking about investment banking business, you get 3 more mandates, 4 more IPOs, 6 more bond deals. You're really thinking about how to create a multi-dimensional stickiness and relationship building with this particular client, and whether any of our ecosystem or vertical that we possess the strengths and also capabilities that we can mobilize to serve this particular client. So I think that's why I think ecosystem is important, versus I think that if you look into most of the traditional company, they are different in a way that either they may not be entirely digital as yet, while everyone chasing to become more digital. But I think if you're talking about more the incumbent players or those players, I think, very traditionally with long years of history. I think we stay, with certain good advantages in a way that we don't have our baggage, we don't have our burden at the back. So I think we can go, more crazier. We can go with a lot more creativity, and we can build something, I think, following the new norm and also reflecting, what's most effectively in the new age.
Yeah. Okay, so for the audience here, if you have any questions that you want to ask them, sir, you can post them in the Q&A section. And so coming back, you also mentioned the virtual bank. So you've set up a virtual bank recently, which the ASR Bank, which is in a joint venture. And so what is the vision associated with the bank, and how does it change the user experience? Like what additional qualities does a virtual bank bring in, and what are some cons that you might think which it has? Yeah.
Well, I think virtual bank in Hong Kong, I think are something very new, but I think it's something very transformational again, right? I think, crafting the new, dimensional, I think, of the banking industry. And first of all, I think Hong Kong, I think, is a place very convenient, very physically connected, everywhere. So I think, you might not otherwise, I think, previously thinking that, when you just go down on the street, you see, so many ATM machines, you see so many banks, around every corner. But I think the digital channels right now, out from the overall building out of Hong Kong as a smart city, but I think especially, I think largely influenced and supported also by the successful digitalization journey, I think, for China, that you see now that I think many cities in China, they are going fully, digital ways. I think for cities like Hangzhou, I think now that for payments, I think you can see virtually over 90%, I think, in terms of different types of transactional going cashless. So in a way that I think this is something comparing, if you even look into outside of Asia, this is transformational. I think same thing, I think, for Hong Kong. I think now that I think the digital bank, I see that as a very important tool to craft the new history. That I think, first of all, number one, the licenses, are with scarcity value. You only have 8 licenses right now granted, and I think, out of the 8, we represent the first 2 to officially commence our business, open up to the public. And now that only 3 virtual banks have commenced operation, of course, we expect more and more to come. But I think, now we actually experiencing and serving the new market. I think creating, a new market, in fact, out of the new norm. I think the pandemic situation, of course, accelerate, I think, everything. I think as you and I know, and sitting even in different countries, we see that the whole world are going on an accelerated mode for digitalization. I think that actually helps a lot in terms of whether we have the right digital tool sets and also the capabilities to cater for everything, on an overall basis, lifestyle, work style, digitally, to be supported by digital financial solutions, right? So I think this is something that we see great opportunity, not just for Hong Kong, but of course out from Hong Kong. I think I'm sure that all students online, most of you have heard about this Greater Bay Area. I mean, it's part of the national strategy set forth by China, bundling up the 9+2 cities, including Hong Kong, Macau, Guangzhou, and several other cities within China. So within this cluster of cities, representing over 71 million population. So I think this, of course, will be the big opportunity, big pie for digital banks from Hong Kong. Still not yet, being able from our end now as Hong Kong virtual bank to be able to serve across the border. But then I think we will expect that there'll be a gradual or more opening up. But then we see that also not within a single city or single geography. Again, right? We always look into more as connecting different dots, right? So I see when in Hong Kong, I see Greater Bay. So when in Greater Bay, I see ASEAN. When in ASEAN, I see the connectivity with Greater Bay and to the rest of Asia. So I think ultimately, digital banks right now, if you look into digital banks, but I also look into then digital everything, digital banks, digital insurance, payments, asset exchange, or different many kinds on an overall basis, right? All this, ultimately when we talk about digital financial services, so for financial services, or when we talk about fintech, it's still a fin plus tech. So as financial services are highly regulated businesses, right? So right now we are all still seeing each of these licenses being regulated heavily by the home country or home city. But then ultimately, I think, but the client's demand, they are universal. They're not just restricted in one place or one area. So I think then my seeing or eyeing for opportunity is really about how we build our connected one-stop digital solutions, not only in Hong Kong and into Singapore, into other parts of ASEAN and across Asia. So, and ultimately, I think, whoever, whichever the winners, I think for the next stage, I think being a digital player, we'll need to look beyond one place or the other. I think, and ultimately, if you ask me, I'll tell you that we are eyeing also for opportunities outside of Asia and hopefully creating a global play.
Yeah. Also, you've spent millions of dollars into supporting the Singapore fintech ecosystem. So is it the next market that you are trying to build upon in the future? Or like maybe like what are other markets, like maybe India, Malaysia, which are there in your vision?
Sure. Well, so as I just described, from the topic, so it's excellent question from you that, leading from my last response is that I'm not only eyeing in one city or one market, as I said, right? So I think, I will want to be establishing my presence in the major markets that I want to establish my presence, right? So I think, following my clients, but at the same time, creating, my uniqueness and also my strengths in places that I create my market presence, and ultimately connecting the dots to create something proprietary as my network. So I think Singapore, I think is a place, I think very vibrant, I think full of, entrepreneurship spirit, great momentum. I see lots of energy in the city. I think especially, I think during COVID, I see that, the city, for the Singapore market have been doing, lots and lots, I think, to demonstrate, the resilience and also the power in terms of how they pave way for the next pickup out of the pandemic. I think there are lots of work important, I think, to creating more strengths, for the next stage, I think, out of the pandemic. The one thing that I do like about it, I just mentioned a bit about, is about the entrepreneurship. I think as an entrepreneur myself, I want to find a place that I could, find more entrepreneurs, creating a network, but grooming the lots and lots of talents. And I think, there are several intentions and also reasons doing that. Number one, for businesses any kind, but especially for financial services, people are the most important assets. So one very important, aspect is that I need to build a digital talent hub. I need to ensure that I have all the talents to support, my next growth and future growth. I think that's number one. And number two, I think it's, something that very important that as entrepreneurs, right? I think it's very important nature, out of every entrepreneur, I think it's the entrepreneurship spirit. Something that, when you are building out your businesses, you always, can, willing to do, walk an extra mile. You're not afraid of, putting in more hard work. You are not kind of counting every hours, that, when, every day that, when is the time for you to kind of, finish your work. It's really about, the level of responsibility as an entrepreneur is different. But then we all talk about entrepreneurship spirit. So I want to find, more entrepreneurs to groom, but creating more, entrepreneurship spirit to groom more of the talents. So I think this is something that, now, out from Greater Bay, I set up the Greater Bay Young Entrepreneurship Association. It's well supported by the Guangzhou government and also the Hong Kong government. I have participated in the Hong Kong Cyberport, as a member of the advisory committee, also supporting more entrepreneurs development. But then I think into Singapore, I've been very much into the fintech community building, and very honored to, under the guidance of the Singapore government side, we created a solidarity scheme to provide more anchor support, I think, to the fintech entrepreneurs, I think, to help them to go through this difficult moment, but to stay strong and to enjoy the next growth after the pandemic. But also very importantly, we created this AMTD Global FinTech Fellowship Program. So hopefully over a journey of 3 to 5 years, we provide a longer term period of time to groom each of these fintech talents, but to provide them, I think, with the global exposure, regionalization opportunities for them to understand beyond their home markets. So I think going back then, I think, if you talk about Singapore, it's a place that now we created our AMT digital headquarters, as the place that we will build it out, to grow it, in Singapore and beyond that. But then if you ask me about, the different markets, I could tell you that it's not just, with Hong Kong, and it's not just restricted to Singapore. And in fact, when I see the whole Asia, but then again, it's not just restricted to Asia. So I again, the different markets that I could tell you that I'm very much interested into now that we have a very good presence in Hong Kong. We are building up, lots of our presence in Singapore. We are also eyeing opportunities in places like Malaysia, Vietnam, and of course, out of the overall Greater Bay, if you're going back into China to look into overall. But then I could tell you that India is also a place that I'm very much interested. I think focusing several aspects. One is, of course, population. Number two, I think, is about the readiness in terms of not only the dynamics of the population and also the embracing towards digitalization. And at the same time, I think also looking into opportunities, again, to connect the dots in between the major markets.
Yeah, definitely. India would certainly be a good market. So you talked about the fellowship program, talking about talents, like you've also launched the first fintech school in Hong Kong, and then there's an AXSI program too. So like, would you like to share more about them, like how you're trying to harness those talents from the countries?
Sure. So when I talk about talents cultivation, when I talk about all this program, I mean, I focus just now, when I describe it, more on the practical on-the-job training types of program. But at the same time, I think it will be very much important that we create some, well-rounded program, both on the job and also the educational side of content. So I think we work very closely with university. I think university across Asia and beyond that, and hopefully in the future, I have the opportunity, I think, through you and all of you, that to work in closer partnership with your university as well. So I think, for Hong Kong, I think you are right that I think for we created the first fintech school. It's in fact 2 years ago already. Time flies. So we partnered with the Polytechnic University of Hong Kong to create this fintech school, but very concretely, this to provide the first or very rare kind fintech PhD degree, to give it out from the school. And I think the school now delivering the program to the first class, and already open up application for the second class. And I think on an overall basis, I think I see that as very important, that I think fintech, as very specialized areas. If you look into fintech, you can split up into many different, verticals and very, very smaller verticals. So I think, all these specialty areas, you need more than on-the-job training. I think, there are lots of educational contents surrounding it. So I think this is actually something that, you go all the way from a fintech junior and hopefully into a fintech master, I think, with the PhD degree. I think separately, I think, working alongside with the Singapore Management University and also the National University of Singapore, they have the ISS Institute together with Xiaomi. I think Xiaomi, we partner together on a very long-term basis. And I'm sure that all of you know Xiaomi, students online, that Xiaomi also enjoy a very good brand in India as well. So I think together we created this XC program. So A, of course, is AMTD X Xiaomi, and then for the two universities, this XC program is something formally received approval from the Ministry of Education, and giving out this 5 years digital finance leadership program, but combining both the educational side and the on-the-job training side, but also into the real-life exposure side. So I think students subscribing to this program will be able to go outside of their home place. They will have the opportunity to go to Singapore to study, to come to Hong Kong to get a taste and also understand about the AMTD ecosystem, and also go to Xiaomi, the Xiaomi University, to understand about their latest technology. And Xiaomi being the IoT consumer network or platform globally in terms of active devices, I think it will be a very comprehensive program. So, and other than that, we also work very closely with the University of Waterloo. Several things I think under our belt. One is that we created this global talent fellowship program that this focusing more into the scientists or the innovators, right? So each year we handpick no more than 18 students, and we each student we give them 75,000 Canadian dollars, supporting their round trip around the world, but to do real case scientific researchers, innovative projects. And I think this is very much important that we see it, that we focusing into grooming talents for the technical skill sets, but we also need to go beyond what we currently know and beyond what we currently possess. I think to go again, right, crazier, with lots of more creativity power to research into the future, right, or something that we do not have for the existing grounds. So I think other than that, I think on the overall basis, I think talents building is in fact something I believe a lot in terms of AMTD, which I think bring it to you the latest definition, or in terms of how we see the current stage of AMTD. We built out the current AMTD surrounding 4 pillars. I call it the AMTD idea. So when I share with you the little thought process, the journey, but it's really about from different ideas or smaller ideas and planting the seeds and growing into bigger ideas. And ultimately, I think ideas that could connect with the world and connecting with you all students now, and having this opportunity. So this 4 words idea now represent the 4 pillars of AMTD core businesses. So the I is AMTD International, our first listed company. So listed now on NYSE and also on the Singapore Exchange. So being the first ever in history, NYSE and SGX dual listed company. And we are also the first dual car share scheme or super voting rights approved listed company for Singapore. And then the D is digital. I think we talk about already quite a lot about the digital platform that we are building. Then the E, interestingly, is education. So strong believer in education, strong believer in talents cultivation. Then finally, I think A is assets, is properties or into areas or valuable assets that we invest into. So this is the nowadays AMTD.
Yeah, so we'd also look forward for the AMTD Group to collaborate with our university. Or yeah, you've also had this acquisition spree lately. So it was PolicyPal, then there was CapBridge, FOMOPay. So in short, it is virtual insurances, investments, payments. So what other similar services do you see, like which might be incorporated further, like maybe some firm having REIT or anything that you would think?
Sure. I think if I could tell you that what are the areas, then it's something already confine and also restrict the future growth power for AMTD Digital. Because that there will be unlimited areas, I could tell you that, or any areas that could enable and empower the ecosystem or the AMTD Digital One Solution digital platform or digital solution network. So I think anything that we see is necessary to support our clients those let it be or be the areas that we want to expand into. Of course, it all depends on whether we find, other than the particular solution or the technical aspect, it's really, again, down to the people, down to the entrepreneurs, whether I find the right team. So if you look into the several companies you mentioned, a few, these are only a few of the many that we are doing. And in fact, we'll keep doing it. So I think, it might be not the previous norm that you see any digital platform similar to AMTD Digital, that while you're creating your digital solutions network, that the ever-growing network power will be delivered through M&A. But I could tell you that this is actually the very important strategy of AMTD Digital, so that the AMTD Digital network will be ever growing, because it's we are very acquisitive. So acquisitive in a way that this is also not a simple M&A, not the normal typical kinds of M&A, because I see it as an entrepreneurship's grooming journey. That for each of the companies that if we were to pick up or acquire, we are actually most interested, of course, in the company, but in fact in the entrepreneurs. We want to find the talents. We want to find or create that internally. We call it the subject matter champion. So let's say for payments, for digital asset exchange, or for particular areas, if we work with someone or some company or one particular kind, it's also because of the entrepreneur, of the core team, of the people there, that we want to support and groom. So then I think the next development, I think, for each of this company will be very much interesting, because as we build out the overall ecosystem or expanding universe, so each of these companies, they will have their situation context, opportunities to adopt and apply their strategies and their technical tool sets, right? So I think nowadays, I think most of these companies, especially if you're talking about fintech, it's really not about you give them X amount of money. Of course, those will be important, but it's really about that you give them X amount of clients, X amount of volumes, X situations of opportunities for them to involve and also take part. So I think ultimately, for each of these companies that we take in, we want to support the growth of the company. That ultimately, for each of them, we want to have their individual listing and to go public and to have their own acquisitive power, not just at the AMTD Digital level, but within the individual opco level for each of the fintech companies that we take in. So if any companies that are following the same path, same thematic approach, that you see it could be interesting company for us to work together for the India markets, student online and anyone, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, like, it cannot restrict the opportunities that digital would be creating. So talking about digital, so suddenly the pandemic came and things have changed. The way the banks have been working has changed, and suddenly everyone now is talking about fintech. Well, you had the same vision since 2016. You knew that digital would be the future. So how have things changed for you now? Like, you've got the virtual bank, and things would be like definitely boosted by the pandemic. Not to say that it was good, but definitely the virtual things definitely got a boost with the current problems, as people saw a solution in them, and it is definitely the future. So how have you felt the changes in the market since the pandemic, and like how has things been more going towards the digitalization of fintech?
Well, I think situation definitely become a lot more interesting, even though I would say expected, but wouldn't say as highly anticipated as for now. That because of course no one wants to see the pandemic, no one wants to see COVID, but nevertheless, I think it's accelerates and expedite a lot the global trends in terms of digitalization. I think now that of course many markets, I think you have read the different statistics that you see multiple times of pickup in terms of payment volume, online transactions, taking up lots of the daily, spending, I think, of people, not only in terms of your day-to-day living, but even in work life, right? So I couldn't even, remember how many webinars that I've been doing, for the past months or even, weeks of time. So every week there are, more than one webinar going on. So I think everyone are already, even though not so much willingly, but then, already adapting quite a lot into the new norm. So, but when we talk about the new norm or the new digital age, I think has been approaching for a long time and gradually, but now it's just everyone suddenly recognize it, right? So through the pandemic, on an overall basis, I think people just couldn't disregard this particular, overall channels, through the digital world. So I think now that I would say that it become, as part of the new norm, setting forth, I think, for people's day-to-day living and also in terms of our work life. I think all this actually, you will see that soon it will be important to redefining the overall landscape in terms of not only the people or the companies, I think, as the users, but I think for the operators, I think for the servicing companies, for the different intermediaries or the organization within the overall situation. So I think there will be a lot of opportunities, but lots of significant amount of challenges, right? So whoever whichever move faster, whoever whichever, I think, seeing things beyond the current dimensional, then of course, those will have a higher likelihood to be successful. So I think now it's really a war zone, a time that I think anyone, if they want to have a good share of the pie for the next future, they need to act fast. They need to, stay very much, connected with what's happening. I think, day by day, but also kind of, thinking ahead of time about, who, for an individual company, whichever ways that you want to become, I think, as a platform or I think as a solutions provider. What will be your new form of servicing that you want to create? I think for us, I think very simple. I think, as I already told you, I don't want to become anything on a singular basis. I don't want to become anything that previously, I think for fintech, one particular problem is that when everyone go very specialized, they go too into the specifics, right? That they lost about the overall. So when out of the specifics, when you need to catch up with the overall, you need to partner with many of the different kinds. But then whether you have more of the influential power of the overall, it depends on the size of magnitude that how you can create out of every different kinds, right? So but then the comprehensiveness or the holistic power actually is something that also very much important. I think in the new age, I think customers are in greater power. I think they have less patience for anything or for everything. Everything goes digitally, but also in a much shorter way or speediness, of timing. So I think you need to deliver the comprehensive solution to the client much faster way to understand about a particular client interest or their appetite or in fact their risk profile much faster than previously. So I think what I believe in or what I see that in the new world as opportunity is anyone or someone that could creating one collected digital solutions effectively will be at least having their space and also opportunity to serve clients effectively in the new age.
Yeah, okay, definitely. So someone is raising hand. I'd like him to like post his question in the Q&A tab. So what skills can an undergrad develop like which you think would be highly crucial? Like would it be some people skills or some technical skills that he should have, or should he do the normal stuff that most of the people have been doing? Yeah.
Well, I think I would say, of course, during my days at university, I studied really hard, right? So I think in terms of academics overall, I would encourage every student, I think, to do your own work, focus on your own studying, and you should, and as part of the process, I think it's really stringent and demanding, through the process to train your mind. I mean, it's really about mind analytics, how to train up your overall, thinking power. But I think, if you ask me the skill sets, I would tell you that it's actually multitasking. It's actually project management skills, because I think, as you grew up, and from before university into university, and before you actually come out to the workplace. I think, something very different is that, when you are out here in the workplace, I think everything, is up to you to prioritize, up for you to, choose your own scheduling. So how to actually prioritize things in between, how much time you spend on, for example, like upskilling or continuous training, to keep your minds sharpened. How much in terms of time you spend, of course, on your day-to-day work, how much time you spend in terms of other things of work-life balance. But I'm not a perfect person to talk about work-life balance, because I prioritize my time 100% into work, right? In fact, so that is actually also a bad example. But then ultimately, but even for work, you need multitasking, because I think about in my role, I have multi-businesses, right? Out of the idea or even beyond that, if you talk about even for the charity side of the role, the split roles I have, both for the commercial and the charity side. So I think, how to prioritize yourself into your day-to-day living is the most important. So I think university point will be the most critical point for you to start, doing your own project management.
Okay, sure. So it's been really great. So I think now we should move on to the questions put up by the audience. So first of all, coming to the first question, what are your thoughts on Softbank's recent investment decisions? So I think this has been really in news quite lately as to what Softbank has been doing. So what are your views? Like, I'd like to know that too. Yeah.
Well, I'm not in a position, of course, to comment any others' investment decision. But I think, Softbank is a great organization. I think huge, globally in terms of their investment portfolio. And in fact, they have quite a number of good investments. So I think previously, or most recently, you saw that the Lemonade, listing, of course, being very successful. And I think, but I think, for every organization, I think it's really similar, even for investment company, but for even companies like AMTD, I think similar kind. I think it's really about several things, right? One is, I think it's really about whether you can find the right investment packs, but that I think is interlinked to many things, right? It's interlinked with your project opportunities, origination skill sets. I think interlinked with your overall analytical skill sets. I think also interlinked into how you see the overall world market. So I think I wouldn't say there are also right or wrong in terms of how you see, but I think everyone on a combined basis, I think formulate your investment strategy. So I think Softbank, I would say that in my eyes, they are quite successful and of course gigantic on an overall basis. I think and I also seeing that they have some very important investment and still yet to realize or maybe to bring it to the capital market. So I think it's something that I would definitely watch closely, and I respect them.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a second question, and that is, what are your views on the fintech technology revolutionizing the way businesses operate? So I think this question is more onto, like, you've already answered the banking side. I think she is more interested in knowing how businesses would change because of the same. Yeah.
Well, I think I would say that everything will become more efficient. Things will become more automated. And I think, the speediness, as I already mentioned, I think about everything will become a lot more, faster, expedited. So I think, but at the same time, I think also the overall environment will become even far more competitive and challenging than before. Over, I think, several dimensions. One is in terms of the skill sets, right? So I think, no one in the future can differentiate about, from fin and tech. Well, this I'm talking about for the finance industry, right? So of course, there are many other different industries. So it wouldn't be the situation that you can say that I'm a fin person or I'm a tech person. If you are into financial services, it must be fintech in combined. So I think, it will become kind of the core essential skills that you need to know about everything, not only fin, but also the fintech related areas. So just recently, we are very honored to launch the Cybersecurity Center of Excellence with the name AWISE Cybersecurity Center. So AWISE, the A is AMTD, and then you have several components of the founding members. You have University of Waterloo, you have Ernst & Young, you have IQ4, and combining on the overall, you also have the Hong Kong government's Cyberport. You also have the charity organization AMTD Foundation. But then what I want to refer to is that this is actually focusing into developing and grooming the cybersecurity talents. But then still now we can differentiate about that. Okay, this might be the talent side the whole world is lacking of. We need more cyber people. We need more kind of data superpower in terms of on an overall basis in terms of skill sets, that people knowing so much about the use of data, not only the usage of it, but also the data privacy areas and also many related areas of expertise and also the risk aspect. But then in the future, right? So taking this as an example, in the future, it wouldn't be too much differentiating about, we have a cyber expert, we have different kinds of expert, we have the fintech expert. On overall basis, in the future, it will be a universal skill sets that you must pick up, all of the different kinds. So I think it will create lots of needs and demand for upskill, for continuously training, but for transformational, areas. I think for everyone, existing, workforce people, but also I think for you, all of you students, how to kind of, best equip yourself for this new world or this very exciting world that, I think, you are in the right university that, focus so much into technology, computation power, but then if you're also into finance, then it's perfect, right? Then both finance and tech, in combined. I think that's how I see for the new standard for talents in the future. It will be on a comprehensive blended basis of skill sets.
Okay, I think that's for it, Calvin. The session has been really great. Thanks for giving out quite open and detailed explanation for everything that we've been asked. And surely fintech is the future, and I think it's been great. You've had that vision for more than 4 years, 4.5 years now, and it's been doing really great. So yeah, thanks Calvin, and thanks everyone for attending the session. This was the 6th webinar of FEC Masterclass series and the last webinar, and we'll be bringing in something really exciting and new from our club side. And thanks for attending the event.
Thank you everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye Calvin.